name is Ariel.
And I'm Matt. And we are here to discuss the pro side of decriminalizing drugs.
And I'm Justin, and I'm here to talk about the con side of decriminalizing drugs.
Did you know that more than $51 billion is spent each year in the United States on the war on drugs? According to drugpolicy.org, the number of people arrested for a marijuana violation in 2013 was 693,482. And of that, the number arrested for possession only was 609,423. My grandma, who's currently 64 years old, suffers from arthritis, tendonitis, and a number of different things that come with getting old. And realistically, there is a simple and safe solution to help ease her pain, and that's marijuana. You may not have realized it yet, but decriminalizing marijuana can be beneficial in a number of ways. Ethan A. Nadelman, founder and executive director of the Drug Policy Alliance, reports that police arrest about 700,000 people per year for marijuana charges, which is about the same number as those arrested for heroin, cocaine, methamphetamines, and all other illicit drugs combined. He also mentioned that a lot of people use marijuana for the same reasons that people drink alcohol or take pharmaceutical drugs. It's very similar to having a beer or a glass of wine at the end of a long day, or to replace the prescription pills to help with anxiety, depression, and insomnia. Decriminalizing marijuana would allow our police force to focus on more serious problems, more serious crimes. Taxpayers spend between about $7.5 and $10 billion arresting and prosecuting individuals for marijuana offenses, when about 90% of those arrests are for possession only. The FBI website reveals that the number of Americans arrested per year on marijuana charges is greater than the number of Americans arrested for all violent crimes combined, and that includes robbery, rape, aggravated assault, and murder. Another thing to take into consideration is, if you didn't already know, the long-term use of pill medication can cause organ damage and failure, especially to your livers and to your kidneys. So medicinal marijuana is a safer alternative and helps treat symptoms for pain, epilepsy, cancer, AIDS, and even glaucoma. If marijuana is decriminalized, the billions of dollars spent arresting and prosecuting individuals for possession of a joint or growing plants can be better spent elsewhere. For example, prosecuting individuals who are using drugs that are actually harmful, such as cocaine and heroin, and also for those committing other dangerous crimes, such as rape and murder. You may argue that decriminalizing marijuana would only give individuals easier access, increase the use, or be that step to later try other illegal drugs. However, according to Eric Single, a writer for the Journal of Public Health Policy, citizens who live under decriminalization laws actually consume marijuana at lesser or equal rates to those living in areas where marijuana remains a criminal offense. Many people do not understand that decriminalizing marijuana would not condone the use nor make it easier to access. Instead, it would drop the penalties for minimal violations. So we all either have grandparents, parents, or someone in our lives who is sick or suffering from some type of pain or injury. And visiting the doctor is ideal. However, not everybody makes that trip, because we all know that doctor bills are through the roof. For example, my grandma only visits a doctor if she's absolutely dying of pain and cannot take it anymore. She doesn't have the money to make the regular trip to the doctor as she may like to. For some, jail may seem like the right place for people to go using marijuana, but considering it has not been proven as a legitimate form of rehabilitation, would it really be solving the problem? Maybe not. The debate over marijuana has been existent for years. Whether it's legalized or not, decriminalized or not, the number of people using will still always remain. Decriminalizing marijuana will take the focus off of innocent users and insignificant marijuana-related crimes. It would allow states to save a considerable amount of money to be used for more serious issues. So I ask that you consider the ways in which marijuana can contribute to individuals and to society as well. After all, getting high to relax with your friends, or to take away your pain and stress, or even to help you go to sleep at night is trivial compared to the other dangerous crimes committed in our world every single day.
Chemotherapy has a reputation of being an unimaginably painful experience. Former San Francisco Police Commissioner Joe Daley described it as, "My whole body turned quite warm, as if a fever were coursing through me. My fingernails burned with heat. My hair fell out." My gums swelled up and bled. I suffered extreme bouts of nausea and found myself in a terrible state of despair. The amount of pain she was going through also affected her ability to eat, resulting in her becoming even weaker. She then turned to marijuana. To calm my stomach, she said, I ingested marijuana. Were it not for the marijuana, I could not even eat. And if I had not eaten, I would have become even weaker and very likely would have died. The use of medical marijuana evidently saved her life, and the benefits such as these are widely known to not help only cancer patients, but a wide demographic of other conditions as well. I wish to inform the audience about the beliefs of decriminalizing medical marijuana and the positive impact it has on the patients who use it greatly outweighs the negative publicity it gets from the media. For decades, we have been attempting to influence the youth with drug awareness programs, but how effective are they? The general population still sees marijuana as a drug that should stay illegal for fear that legalizing it would only cause more people to use it, especially in the young demographic. Let's consider the use of alcohol for a moment. We've all been to high school. Minors who wanted to consume alcohol obviously didn't purchase it themselves, but they knew of a person who could purchase it for them. The same thing could be said about marijuana. Much like alcohol, marijuana is a drug that's fairly easy to obtain, and while the conservative crowd spends all of their time trying to influence the youth about the evils of marijuana, we fail to acknowledge individuals such as Joe Daly, who actually use the drug for medicinal purposes. One may believe that since drug awareness programs have become increasingly popular over the years, that there's a big concern with drugs in middle and high school. Many of us are aware of the company DARE, Drug Abuse Resistance Program, as they are known to travel from school to school promoting the negative uses of marijuana and other substances. One would think that a program that has been around for so long would provide positive results in the reduction of drug use, but recent studies have proved otherwise. According to a study found in the Journal of Consulting and Clinical Psychology, about 2,000 sixth grade students were part of a study, half having received DARE or other standard drug-related education or another standard drug-related education program, while the other half did not. These students were monitored and reevaluated 10 years after the program. The results showed that few differences were found between the two groups in terms of actual drug use or drug attitudes, and in no case did the DARE group have a more successful outcome than the comparison group. While it has been shown that the effectiveness of DARE is minimal at best, it is still a multi-million-dollar funded program. We could be using that money on more important programs that actually show benefits in today's society. Instead of basing our opinion on controversial news stories we hear on television, we should consider informing the public about the benefits marijuana has on medical patients. According to a study in the Open Neurology Journal, two groups of enrolled patients with HIV peripheral neuropathy were tested. One group was given marijuana to treat the pain, while the other group had a placebo. Results consistently indicated that cannabis significantly reduced the pain intensity, with patients reporting 34 to 40% decrease on cannabis, compared to 17 to 20% on the placebo. Results such as these are often ignored as the general public is too concerned with what they heard on the news about marijuana drug lords to consider that legitimate positive outcomes can be found if people took the time to research and get the facts. THC has been known to successfully treat nausea caused by cancer treatment, drugs, and stimulate appetites of persons diagnosed with acquired immune deficiency syndrome, or AIDS, and possibly assist in the treatment of glaucoma. We need to stop categorizing all marijuana users as bad people. In 2010, Harvard economist Jeffrey Miron estimated that the United States spent an estimated $13.7 billion annually on marijuana law enforcement. But how much of this money is spent on people who fit the description as a bad person? Myron went on to say that he had a neighbor who was kind and friendly. He was an older gentleman who was arrested for possession of marijuana. and was sentenced to a year in prison. He was a good neighbor and caused no inconvenience to anyone in the community, and this imprisonment was devastating to his wife and family, as he would now be labeled as a convict or ex-convict for the rest of his life. As a community, we should be able to tell that a conviction such as this is much different than that of a conviction of a drug dealer or felon. Yet under law, their crimes are nearly identical. In closing, what I really want for the audience to take from this is that not all marijuana users are criminals or felons as they appear to be in the media. Many of the users are normal, everyday people who wish to treat their medical conditions without taking multiple pills that tend to carry multiple side effects of their own. The biggest issue has been whether or not it will influence the younger crowd once decriminalized, yet anti-drug organizations like DARE have proven ineffective for years now. So fight the ignorance of marijuana and do your own research rather than getting your information from
Alright, so we all know about the benefits for medicinal purposes, but in what other ways is marijuana beneficial to society?
Well, for one, the billions of dollars of taxpayers' money would be better spent. Personally, I would rather know that my tax money is being spent arresting and prosecuting individuals for dangerous crimes that are actually a harm to society, not arresting individuals for possession of marijuana. Arresting individuals for possession of marijuana or growing plant is a little less significant in my opinion.
And to add to that, it's also beneficial since we can tax the dispensaries and generate a profit, resulting in more money for the country.
Alright, so the demand for the legalization of drugs, mainly marijuana and drugs in general, has become one of the most focused topics of debate over the past couple decades. But now, many states have legalized marijuana, but there are still many states out there and people who still disapprove of this. And according to Robert L. DuPont, he states that the use of marijuana accounts for about 100,000 emergency room episodes per year. To me, I think that most people would suggest that this drug is a problem across the nation and there should be action to keep it illegal. Drugs tear the body down. I have seen how drugs can affect a person's ability to function normally in society. It can change people for the worse, which is why I have chosen to do the research on the decriminalization of drugs. I am here to inform people that why legalizing marijuana would not be a smart decision, and there have been steps that have been taken to keep it criminalized. Keeping drugs legal, what for? So, though drugs like marijuana have become widely accessible, whether legal or not, but because of drugs have become more accessible, the claim that the crime rate has not risen and that legalizing has greatly diminished the possibility of drug-related crime. But let's be real now, in a perfect world that would probably be the case, but we don't live in a perfect world. There is always that group of people who will abuse it and crime will pick back up again. According to an article, Legalizing Marijuana, the IRS notified California's largest dispensary in Oakland that it was considered a criminal enterprise and that it owed $2.5 million in taxes because it had illegally deducted expenses such as rent and salaries on its tax return. And from the same article, a report out of Colorado saying that the Attorney General demanded medical marijuana centers that were located in the vicinity of 1,000 feet of schools to be moved or either shut down. According to another article, Legalizing Madness, Barry Spun of the National Development and Research Institutes in New York City, he's talking about the New York State prisons, and the study was that 269 convicted murderers and 45% said they were high during the offense. 3 in 10 believed that the homicide was related to their drug. 1/3 who had never used marijuana before claimed that in the 24 hours before they committed the crime, they had smoked marijuana. And 31% whom felt high at the time of the homicide believed that the homicide and marijuana coincided with each other. But although these facts have been presented, that there really would not be a decline in criminal activity if drugs were legalized. But for example, pro-legalizers use cocaine as one of their arguments. And as part of their argument, they say that if cocaine were legalized, then crime related to cocaine would become less of a problem. Most people that are pro could probably say the same thing for marijuana as well. You don't need to jump off a bridge to know that's a bad idea. Why then would you need to go try a drug if you know they're damaging? That's plain nonsense. So So regular use of marijuana contributes to bad outcomes at school, social life, and work. The illegal market for marijuana, especially in the US, is twice as big as the market for coffee. Now, we all love coffee, right? But the total harm to society is average harm multiplied by the total quantity of drugs consumed. On the subject of if all drugs were legalized, just say no to drugs. There's no special thing about using drugs. Drugs won't make your life any better. Staying away from drugs prevents one from making bad and regrettable life choices. And I'm pretty sure that we can all come to agreement that drugs should stay illegal. The decision to legalize drugs should really be reconsidered and fully thought about before a decision to legalize it or keep it illegal is made. So in review, I've given you good reasons to oppose decriminalization of drugs and how it can affect society if drugs were be able to be decriminalized. To each and one of you, I'm asking to really look at the opposition of decriminalizing of drugs. And finally, this is a very huge topic, and if more people believe that decriminalization is wrong in many ways, it will not become a topic at all. I'm willing to take a stand. Will you?
So you mentioned that you don't need to try drugs to know if they're damaging. Can you explain in what ways marijuana is actually harmful to individuals and to society?
Yeah, what's the word I'm looking for? It makes people become unproductive and makes them not want to do things, especially in school. Marijuana can have the ability to make people, slack off in class and not show up, and maybe they get the feeling that they want to drop out. And society-wise, it can make people unsociable. It can change their personalities, like I mentioned in my speech before. And that's about it. All right, so I'm going over the pro papers, or at least one of them at least. And so basically, it's papers saying that medical marijuana has benefits to society. And the one example brought up was a police commissioner who described that marijuana helped her for her appetite, and if not for the marijuana, she probably would have not eaten and died. And there's another study about the DARE program, and the students were evaluated over a 10-year period, and the study came out to be that there was no difference between the two groups, and so basically there's no difference between getting help from the DARE program and not getting the help from the DARE program. Basically, people were going to do what they chose to do to their bodies.
So after reviewing the con side, they feel that decriminalizing marijuana is not a good idea because it, along with other drugs, is already easily accessible. And with that, there will always be the group of people who will abuse it, which can potentially increase crime. Another point mentioned was medical marijuana locations can be an issue. For example, if they're located near schools, and considering there's schools on like every other street, that could be a huge problem. It was also mentioned that a good percent of a few hundred convicted murders in New York were admitted to being high at the time of the crime. So the relation between drugs and crime can be related in some ways. The con also stated that smoking marijuana can affect individuals' personal and social lives. For example, it can make them unmotivated to go to school or be unproductive when it comes to everyday activities. They basically just feel that you should say no to drugs.
So in review of the con side of decriminalizing marijuana, a couple points that I found really interesting were per year, marijuana accounts for 100,000 emergency room episodes per year. And also, to reduce the possibility of marijuana use among the younger crowd, medical marijuana centers should not open in the vicinity of 1,000 feet of schools. Also, marijuana use contributes to bad outcomes at school, social life, and work. And then one thing I found really interesting was in a New York City prison research study,
Of 269 convicted murders, 45% of them were high at the time. 3 out of 10 believed that the homicide was related to their drug.